Free your mind.
Pyramid Weekly Roundup, or call it PAP Weekly Roundup, with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katsabe. My guest is Comrade Lissafri Thomas, a freelance journalist from France, and of course, a teacher of what are you teaching?
Governance and politics.
Governance and politics. Lissafri, an estimated 77 people have been killed in an attack on Mali's capital, Bamako, according to AFP news agency. About 200 others were injured in the attack, which took place on Tuesday and caused the hospitals to be overwhelmed with wounded patients. A diplomat who asked to remain anonymous told the news agency it's unclear how the victims were wounded. However, residents reported gunshots and explosions. There was also smoke from apparent fires coming from the building. Malian authorities closed Modibo Keita International Airport after the attack. Mali's military government downplayed the incident, with officials stating the situation was under control. I want to hear your views. There was an attack on Tuesday last week, and about 77 people were killed.
Okay, I think it's very important we speak about that here in the Pan-African Pyramid, because we keep looking at the Sahel crisis, right? And we've been explaining that the Sahel crisis is not just a now crisis, it has a long history. And when we look at African history, when we look at Africa, the present and the news, we need to understand it through the larger understanding of history. So we have said that there has been conflict between the population of the Sahara, especially the Tuaregs, and the population of the South, which are most sub-Saharan Africans, right? So the government and the juntas are fighting them, and they get help from Russia, especially from the Wagner, right? From Wagner's, and they managed to. There is a strong war going on in the north, right? But now the Al Qaeda took it to fight back in Bamako, and that hasn't happened since 2017. The last attack on Bamako was in 2017 against the Radisson.
So it is Al Qaeda in charge of this death.
Al Qaeda in the what they call the Islamic Maghreb. So it's Al Qaeda here in Africa, right?
Al Shabaab.
Not Al Shabaab, not ISIS. ISIS is more on the Nigerian side, Nigerian side, when Al Qaeda is more on the Mali and Burkina Faso side. And so what we have here is we have a situations where, for the very first time, Al Qaeda didn't target people, they didn't target civilians, they didn't target Malians. They target Malian militaries and Wagner militaries. So what they did is quite impressive. They arrive in the morning in Bamako and then totally neutralize the school police. So which would have been so it's a military school police where the youth are trained, right? And a lot of trainers and soldiers are staying there. So they attacked this and they blocked it. So people get busy like trying to sort out that situation when they were really targeting the international airport. They managed to arrive inside the international airport, shot on the planes, start burning like the presidential plane. Literally, they burnt like some of the things that were covering the plane, just to show that they were there, they were present. They start to shoot inside the airport. There were no one there, obviously. So basically they say we can take control of the international airport of Bamako, meaning what? We can cut Bamako from its supply. That's what the message was. And what's interesting is the shift between targeting civilians and foreign organizations to targeting the juntas, right? So Al Qaeda has then released the message. And the message is quite clear, because the message says we are fighting the juntas, Islamic State, Turkey, and Russia. They don't speak of France anymore. And it's the very first time Al Qaeda is posting on one of his attacks, not naming the usual Western power, France and the US, right? So for the very first time, Al Qaeda is recognizing that the Russians have been replacing the French in the war, and the juntas and Wagner are hands in hand together. And so they attacked them like around July. Around July, Al Qaeda has attacked the juntas and Wagner. They killed over like 75 to 80 Russian people at that time. The biggest killing of Russian outside of Russia and Ukraine since 2018. So it was a really, really big battles there. Al-Qaeda in the north won that battles. And now they're coming to Bamako and they're showing Bamako power that they are not safe. So what we see here is we see a message from Al-Qaeda. We see a clear message sent to the juntas, right? Sent to Mr. Traoré of Burkina Faso, Chani in Niger, and Assimi Goïta of Mali, but especially Assimi Goïta in Mali. He says, the Wagner are protecting you. They claim they're protecting you. Look what I can do to your army. Look what I can do to your capital.
Can I penetrate in 1 minute?
I can enter, take down your airport, your very own plane. I can burn down your very own plane. There's nothing you can do about it. Those Russians are not there to help you. So they also attacked a military base where they were Russians. So what we observe here is that we observe that Al-Qaeda has a lot of information within Bamako itself. Al-Qaeda is not some organization based in the north of the country. It's in the whole Sahel, but they can attack the capital whenever they decide. That's the message they want to pass. Because the message is also quite clear. Continue to work with Wagner, continue to work with Russia to try to kick us out. Then we're gonna get those guys done too.
Also, they are against Putin's Wagner.
So now they target.
So they are sending a message. If you're working with Wagner,
yeah,
we are coming for you.
We are coming for you.
That's a signal.
Because Wagner is sent to fight them in the north. So they say, okay, you guys send us guy. We're going to fight you them straight from Bamako. And we're going to kill more Russians that we have never seen in this country. There were never that much Russian being killed.
In this attack, 77 people, they are Russians that were killed.
Part of the 77 killed, some of them were Russians. Not all of them were Russians, some of them were Russians. But there were a bigger attack in July in the north. That was previously before the current one. The attack in the north killed at least 75 to 80 Russians and a lot of Malian soldiers, around probably 200 Malian soldiers. So you have these forces of the Malian army fight with Wagner, and Wagner are part of the army, right? And there is victories. They won in Kidal. There is defeat. They lose in a city called Tenhausen near the Algerian borders. But what's interesting is Al-Qaeda now say Russia and Turkey are imperialist forces, right? Russia and Turkey are imperialist forces because the Turkish are sending a lot of drones. So what we see in the region is a recomposition. Wagner is here to protect the people in place. Wagner are the same mercenaries that the French used to make in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, what people were named les affreux. So that mercenaries are made in order to protect the presidents and the regime. That's it. No regime change. Wagner is here to make sure there is no regime change, that the president, the junta's president, is not going to be overthrown, right? But the reality is that the reality is more complex, and Malians might be also tired of those type of fights, and junta presidents can have more or less legitimacy, right? But slowly but surely what we see is they're losing the legitimacy, and the fact that Al-Qaeda keep targeting and shooting on Wagner, it's also a way for us to realize how Russians are important in that country. Imagine if they only attacked Malians. Probably we would never know those Russians were there, or Turkish drones. But because Al-Qaeda attacked the drones and attacked the mercenaries, then they speak about it and we all speak about it. So there's also like a communication strategy behind it. By shooting Wagner, they keep telling the youth, look at your president. He said he's going to liberate your country from French neocolonialism and imperialism. He is replacing one imperialism by another one. And now the Russians have the security when the Chinese take the economy. It's always like this. And when you see like what's happening in Central Africa, it's the same. Wagner is protecting the president, but most of the mining contracts come out to the Chinese. And even South African at some point, they try to get some contracts. But that's another point, right? Because what? Because there is a lot of country imperialism. In Africa, the way imperialism functions is that you first send your army, then you send your businessmen. If you send your businessmen without sending the army, without protecting the guys that signed the contract for you, chances that this guy is removed and the contract given to someone else are high. So if you want to protect your interests, you protect the president that signed the tenders that give you the mines and all that, and you send your own company to those mines, right? And so yeah, in Mali we see that. We have to remind the people that Mali produced a lot of gold. Sudan produced a lot of gold. Central Africa produced a bit less gold, but still produced gold. And if Wagner is in all those countries that produce gold, is by no mistake, because Russians right now are facing sanctions, right, by NATO countries. So NATO countries said you cannot sell and buy weapons from the Russians or to the Russians, right? And so what the Russians do is a lot of countries refuse to be paid in ruble, which is the Russian money, and want to be paid in dollars. But of course, Russia cannot pay in dollars because it's fighting America, so they don't have dollars capacity. So what do? They take the gold of Mali, they take the gold of Sudan, they take the gold of Central Africa. With that gold, that's how they buy weapons. So they now give North Koreans gold, they give Chinese gold, they give all the powers that bring weapons to them, and they pay them in gold. So we bought the gold of Africa. All the conflict of Russia, that big Russia that a lot of propaganda say, oh, Russia is friend to Africa, blah blah blah. No. Russia need Africa. Russia need Africa. Without Africa, yeah,
more than Africa needs Russia.
Way much more, because Russia provides security for dictators, but that security is dictators is not the right term, but for powers. No, I appreciate the politics of those juntas. You know, we also know that it is true that in order to break with French imperialism, some action needs to happen. It cannot be made with politicians and democracy. We spoke about that before. It's easy to corrupt a politician. It's more complicated with a military leader that have a battle to fight. His men are on his back. If he doesn't bring the weapons, he might be the next one killed. So it's more serious. So it is complicated. But yeah, what's important is to realize once again, we see Russia trying to expand to Ukraine. Whatever we think of that, we need to realize that when Russia do one move in Europe, they have to do 2 or 3 moves in Africa before. And same for France. It was the same for France. It's the same for China. It is always the same. Like they need Africa. Africa is at the early stage of their development plans. Without African minerals, there is no such thing as a Chinese industry. Without African petrol, there is no such thing as a Japanese industry. Like all of those things happen because of the mineral at the first point, and they have to secure those minerals. To secure those minerals, they secure the president, right? And so we need to be really careful when we see foreign troops protecting presidents, because what we see behind it is also foreign businessmen taking over the business of the place.
Okay, Pan-African Pyramid, the weekly roundup. We are actually rotating around the African continent to know what happened in the last week. Comrade Lisafri, Ruto, last week was in Haiti. And remember, the other week, Ruto was awarded by NATO as the, a very good president.
He was in Germany.
Yeah, he was awarded. So, what do you read from Ruto's visit?
Yeah.
Haiti? First of all, I have an interview.
Yes.
With a general from Haiti,
okay,
who is opposed to Ruto's deployment. I have a general. I'm going to interview him next week. He called me.
Then we have we have to speak about that guy's follow-up.
He called me. A general is mobilizing the entire continent of Africa and the world to tell Ruto that Ruto, we don't need your deployment in Haiti. What they're supporting is wrong. You may think I was lying. This is Friday. You see the name? You see Friday. This is Friday, last Friday publication. You see the picture?
Yeah, I see.
You see the message. Good evening, brother. How would you like to interview General?
No, you can interview Barbecue.
Barbecue. He's called Barbecue. AKA Barbecue.
Stop.
Let me finish. He's the revolutionary freedom fighter who is fighting the West.
Irumba.
Take back their resources for the people.
Irumba, we have.
He's here. You may think I'm lying. He's here.
You can all check online with Barbecue. It's really famous. You can interview Barbecue. We're going to interview
Barbecue. My brother.
Yeah, we're going to interview Barbecue.
He's here. Last Friday. Today is Monday.
Barbecue doesn't speak English.
Yeah.
But I can translate. He doesn't speak English.
Even behind here, there was somebody translating.
Yeah.
There is a translation in the video that they sent me to.
Let's speak about that.
They are saying he is the revolutionary freedom fighter who is fighting the West to take back their resources for the people.
He's definitely.
He wants to get the resources of Haiti, give them back
to his people.
He's got AKA Barbecue. This is what Comrade
Ruto.
Ruto. He's fighting. His true name is.
No, but that's what we wanted to say. I wanted to say.
His name is General Cherizia. Cherizia, aka barbecue. You know what barbecue means?
I know barbecue.
He's going to eat you like.
I know barbecue really well. I've watched a lot of interviews of barbecue already.
So
we will talk.
I'm having an interview.
We're going to follow this channel to check out the interview of barbecue.
They believe that Pan-African Pyramid platform is the right platform to come and speak.
But the Ruto nonsense. Okay, so we spoke of the deployment before. Of course, it's a sub-imperialism deployment. So basically, Kenya is deployed for America, for American agenda, and America, Haiti for American agenda. Of course, 100%.
Kenya is in Haiti.
Yes.
Not on its mission as Kenya, but on the mission of NATO and America.
Yes. 100%. How does Haiti threaten Kenyan security? What does Haiti threaten Kenyan security? Kenyan security is threatened by, we're not going to say who, but there is problem in Kenya, and those guys the problem is not Haitian. So what does it mean? It means America has an agenda. America has an agenda to control the Monroe Doctrine, if you guys have known from beginning of 20th century. They control America. They say whatever happens in America, it's happened. We have to be in charge, we have to be in control. So no president can emerge outside of Latin America, the Caribbean, without us having a say. When it comes to Haiti, the level of violence that is there push people to migrate and emigrate. Where do they emigrate? To the US. And then what the US president is doing about that, it become a whole national debate. So the American politicians want to sort that out, right? But they can't send American soldiers in Haiti because everyone will see.
Immigrants come to them as a refugee.
As refugee now. Now they are refugee of what?
For funding for those refugees.
And now they call them refugee.
They mobilize the entire world.
But who has been in charge of the politics of Haiti since the last 60 years, if it wasn't the hand of American itself? So to recap, right? What's happening? It's a sub-imperialist mission. It's not the imperialist. Kenya is not powerful enough to be imperialist yet, right? The national bourgeoisie wish they can get imperialist, but they are not there yet, right? So America is imperialist enough to impose force on a foreign country, so it doesn't prevent its own businesses. So they have sent Kenyans because they're black and Africans, and they think that no one is going to really complain about the fact that Africans come to help Haiti because Haiti is a black country. Haiti was the first black republic, 1804, independent since 1804 because the slave fight for their freedom. The slave fight for their freedom. It's really important. Toussaint Louverture, Dessalines. Go and check on Wikipedia if you don't know those men. So yeah, the Haitians have. Haiti defeated Napoleons when no one could defeat Napoleons in Europe. Do you know that? Haiti, Haitians, generals, Dessalines and Toussaint Louverture. They defeated Napoleon in 1804 when Napoleon was at his peak. Russians, the Tsar of Russia, couldn't front Napoleon. The German king couldn't front Napoleon. The Italians couldn't front Napoleon. Everyone was losing one after the other against Napoleon from 1799 until 1812. Only one country and one army defeated, not just neutralized the guy, defeated Napoleon. When the British tried, the English were trying to fight Napoleon's left, right, center. No one could touch the man. But General Dessalines and Toussaint Louverture, they were more brilliant. They knew the field, they knew their men, they knew the field. Napoleon tried to re-establish slavery. He came back. The French Revolution said no more slavery. Napoleon came back and said, no, you know what about that? No more slavery, forget. He was on the side of the settlers, of the colon. And so he protected the colon interest, and he said, no, we're re-establishing slavery. And the slaves, the old slaves said, no, we're gone with that. We're going to fight for our freedom. We're going to fight for our freedom. And not only they fight, but they won. And no one defeated Napoleon for 6 years after.
So that is those are the people. Ruto is so
he's joking with that guy. So you know what?
The people who defeated Napoleon is what Ruto is playing with. The army that defeated Napoleon is what Ruto is. Ruto from East Africa here.
How does he call himself? The hustling man, eh?
The hustler.
The hustler. But let me give you the larger context, because we also need to understand what is Ruto getting out of it, right?
Yes.
The Americans, we know what they're getting. They get more stability around their country, less migration, so stable economy. It's an American agenda to show that whenever things happen outside of American interest, they look at it, they sort it out. So no one can think, I can take power in Nicaragua or Venezuela. Nah, like we are handling the problems. So what does Ruto get out of it? Okay. So what is Ruto getting out of it? And that's quite key. We have said in the previous videos that Kenyatta, right, President Kenyatta, has spent a lot of money. In order to maintain like the tradition of his name, right? He was a businessman. He's already part of he can make much more money than being president of Kenya. He's already making much more money. But he wanted to continue to bring the legacy, right? And so he spent a lot of money that he got from loans. And the money of Mombasa, Nairobi train, for instance, that we are all happy to see that train, its development and stuff, has been overpaid. It is overpaid with Chinese money, right? So Ruto is here now trying to reimburse the Chinese so they don't size the infrastructure that they have built in Kenya. So if Chinese don't get back their money, they will size Mombasa, they will size the... Yes, they've done it in a lot of countries. Don't tell me that they will do it differently because of Ruto. No. The contract is clear. I deliver for you this at this price. If you don't, that's the money you have to reimburse me. If you don't reimburse me,
I take over this.
I take over it. Simple. He's trying to get American money to reimburse the Chinese debt, basically. So the guy is so much in debt, he wanted to tax his people. He said, no, we're going to tax the PADs, we're going to tax ABCD. The youth have said, no. You don't tax us because you guys have spent money.
We are refusing that, throwing him stones.
They're throwing stones.
Then they are awarding him in America.
So now he got over.
They want to confuse that, no, you are throwing the stones at the wrong man. He's a very good man. Good man for who?
He's running for money, and now he thinks that being in bed with the Americans will help him bring more money and pay back the debt to the Chinese before they start sizing things. Because how it will look like? It will look like Kenyatta have built and developed the country while Ruto have sold it back to the foreigners. And it's not like this. It's because of Kenyatta's debt. Kenyatta original debt is huge. It's gigantic. So now Ruto have to find solution in different markets. That's why he travels so much. But at the first point, like, why does he think he has to go in IT? So then he goes to IT, right? Trying to be in bed with the Americans so they can reimburse the debt that he has spent to the Chinese. He goes to IT over the weekend. His old speech, go and look his old speech. He passed his time saying, you know what, I'm going to bring more men, I'm going to bring more materials, we're going to have other army coming and support us. There's no other army there. It's only like those 600 guys. They're staying there and they're being shot everywhere. So if you look at if you ask barbecue and Haitians, those guys are not even there. They're playing.
I'm glad you even know barbecue.
Of course. Now we will speak barbecue. Barbecue. No, the thing, let me explain to the audience because I don't want it to look like we are hiding things. We're not hiding here anything there. Barbecue speak French, so it is quite an Asian Creole, of course, but it doesn't speak English. So it is quite clear that I've watched a lot of interviews from Barbecue, and I think we will prepare the interview together so we can have a proper African perspective within the conversations. That being said. Ruto missions in IT is like any imperialist mission. It's bound to fail. That's the beauty of imperialism. Like it fails. It does end up failing. It's trying, but it never succeeds. You cannot put people under such a heavy situation and then think that they're gonna stay and be happy and sign. They're not gonna sign. The more you oppress people, the more like the boom that is gonna come back is gonna be big. So those Kenyans are gonna lose men. We have said that before. But not only they're gonna lose men, but right now they're begging for Ruto to find new people to come. And Ruto is begging Americans, hey, can you not find another of those sub-imperialist countries that can come and maybe help my guy? Because now Kenyans are not only useless in IT, but they are there and Haitians know that they're not going to help, and they're confusing the whole situation. So what I'm trying to say is that the IT mission is a failure. It is a failure. Don't watch at those media that make you think like like because 5 Kenyans are walking in the street, then the street is safe. That is not true. They're walking on the street, they clean up the street, they put camera, they walk on the street. After that, barbecue come back and take over. I'm telling you. And I'm not saying barbecue is a great guy. I don't think we can take those type of stand, right? But we do know what is an imperialist intervention, and Kenya is doing one right now. And whatever those are African soldiers or not, we're calling it an imperialist intervention because Kenya had nothing to do to sort out American agenda in Caribs.
In Haiti.
Nothing to do with that.
Kenya, Ruto, the hustler, is in Haiti as a machinery. Like the Cubans were here, as you know.
Yeah, for USSR.
Yes.
Yeah, similar. But the Cubans, at least, they had a black army. The Cubans, they were sending only a black army of volunteer. Yeah. When other imperialist forces, such as the French or the Russian today, they don't say black Russians or black French. They say they're white soldiers. So it's a different game. It's a different game. But they have this idea that because we send a black army, we're going to be blind about the fact that it's an imperialist forces. They think of us. Let me tell you straight what I think they think. They think that African will not complain about a black army in the Caribs because it's a bit new. You know, normally it's more foreign army coming here. Now we're going overseas, so maybe we must be developing. We must be moving forward. But we are not if we are oppressing our brothers. There's no such development as you go overseas to oppress your brothers. The same way people like the Europeans used to do all around the world in 19th and 20th century. You can't go in foreign country, take the resources, oppress the people, and call it like a dialogue or a negotiation. So there's no such things. So Kenyans' missions, as my last points, I want everyone to remember, because one of the advantage of having that Pan-African perspective is that we can mobilize different resources. And in this very show, in the Pan-African lectures that we have our LBS every Saturday, you should check that if you haven't yet. We've been speaking of this intervention, right? And what is it that we have said is that within this intervention, we can look at previous Kenyan intervention on the continent, because Kenyans have come all around the continent. And I don't know if you remember, but a year and a half ago, something like this, they came to DRC. 2 years ago, actually. I was even in South Africa at the time. They went to DRC, right? And Kenya's army was in DRC. They were in the East. It was the East African Forces missions, right? We were all happy about that. We thought, East Africans, now they're coming to push. Now DRC is part of East African community. The bond is getting stronger. What have we seen? What have we seen? What have we seen in the East? Are the M23 not here? No. Is the Congolese army now in charge? Yes. Our Congolese president preferred to call South Africa, Malawi, and Tanzania, so the Kenyans are not in charge? Yes. And what does it mean? It means that the Kenyan's army in east of Congo was already imperialist. They were already more interested into selling the milk of the Kenyan farmers to DRC than actually help
peace and stability
than the peace of stability that they were saying. It changed
from DRC, but the Ugandan army, because it was a different contract.
No, Uganda stayed.
UPDF is still there.
UPDF stayed.
And Tshisekedi is okay.
And Tshisekedi is okay because UPDF is at the border. They're also controlling what's entering to Uganda. So it's really key that but what we see is that we see the failure of the Kenyan army in DRC, and it's not the army itself. Don't get me wrong. It's not the men of Kenya I'm attacking here. The men of Kenya are probably shot the same way than any others. But the leadership have sent them to DRC for no reason, for no result, right? Congo even had to kick them out, and now Ruto said, "Hey, we can't go to DRC. Now let's go and play American games.
Let's go to Haiti.
Let's go to Haiti."
For him, the hustler is looking for money, deals.
In other words, and that's why Pan-African look at history. History shows us about what's happening. Bring new lights on what's happening, and what's happening is clear. Kenya is going to fail its IT missions because there's no such thing as a successful missions in IT by Kenyan forces. There is no such thing as Kenyans coming to sort out IT problems. It does not exist. The same way here, if we have problems in Uganda, we have to sort the problems between ourselves. And when I say between ourselves, I don't even include me inside, right? Between ourselves, we're not going to ask the Egyptians. No one will accept that. So the Haitians have to sort out their problem between themselves, and they have a lot of problems. Don't get me wrong, and they know that. And Yeah, yeah, we'll speak of IT, but yeah, we'll have tell us in the comments if you want an episode on IT. We can make a special one on IT revolution and how did slave came out free and fight for their freedom against.
Actually, maybe next week we should look at the history of IT.
Yeah, we can. No, but we will do a special episode with barbecue and the history of IT.
Barbecue and the history of
yeah, definitely.
Revolutions. I love this revolution you've given me. The defeating the most feared man in the world.
The fearless man. Toussaint Louverture. You guys can play this guy.
All right. Our last topic, Comrade Lissafri, is about, for a very long time, Africa has been agitating for at least, even our senior comrade in Pan-Africanism, Robert Mugabe.
Yes.
Every time he went to the UN General Assembly, he would tell them, what are we doing here as Africa if we're only coming to observe you? So they have been agitating for permanent slots.
Yes.
At the UN Security Council.
Yes.
And finally they have given them 2 slots.
Yes.
But
I mean, they're giving them.
But they are giving them as if they don't deserve. They have just said, we have given you. But I want you to tell me what's behind these 2 slots.
Behind those things? So I don't know what the Biden move, but just to give the context, right? So the Second World War happened and showed the emergence of the Second World War showed that the previous institution for peace didn't work, right? So people tried to come with new institution for peace. And at the end of the Second World War, the question was, how do you sit USSR and USA on the same table? Even if they won the war, you need to sit them at the same table. Then quickly after, Chinese and Mao came, right? And they were winners of the war. So you have a system where after the Second World War, it was very important to bring peace. The world have been impacted by European imperialism and European wartime. And so people wanted those institutions. So they created the United Nations with the winner of the war, right? So there were 4 clear winners of the war. There were China, there were the US, there were United Kingdoms that didn't fall against Hitler, and USSR, of course, right? And so you have 5 permanent members. So already there's one that invited himself. Who has invited himself to the Security Council in 1945 was the French. The French invite themselves and call themselves. They were a brilliant move, I have to say, for diplomatic reason. That was a brilliant move because basically we now remember as in history, thanks to this move, that as the winner of the war. But we win no war. We won no war. We won no war, right? We had freedom fighters fighting the Nazis, that's for sure. Those guys were essentially communists that were fighting the fascists and the taking of the Jew. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is there were institutions made in 1945 when all Africa was under colonialism. Almost all Africa was under colonialism. And so the British, that knew that it's going to be the end of their empire soon, invited the French to the table. They said, no, the French have an empire, we have an empire. USSR is against colonialism, USA is against colonialism. We better bring the French to the table so we maintain colonialism and neo-colonialism. We are kind of a balance of power. So those security council were made with genuine organizations such as that when one country is against, if one country is against a war or an intervention, he can put a veto. He can put a veto, right? So all 5 members of Security Council have a veto. So when America want to go in Iraq to make Saddam Hussein down, the French said, nah, veto. So now no UN mission can go. So when the Russians goes to Ukraine and fight, the Americans say, yeah, there's a war, we need to condemn Russia. And Russia, veto, no condemnation. So all of this is the real power. The real power is the veto. The real power is to stop the whole organization and say, no, UN is not going to go there and say anything about it. I'm in charge, right? So you have 5 members of the Security Council and 5 veto rights. Now they have opened the Security Council to 15 members, including 3 African states. So you have 15 states that sit and decide the resolution of the United Nations. 15 states, but only 5 can put a veto. So 15 vote and speak, but only 5 can say no. We're not going to do that, or yes, we're going to. The yes, everyone can say yes. Russia, America, China, France, and UK, United Kingdom. Those 5 countries can block any mission in the UN. So what does it mean? It means that basically they're in control of the UN agenda.
After giving Africa the entire Africa, only 2 slots. They even don't have veto power.
So that's the trick.
Wait. They have given you 2 slots, but just come and sit and observe.
Yes.
You have no veto power.
So right now there's 3 slots. So African are free state that sit in the Security Council, but that change every 2 years. Every 2 years there's a new African state. So basically you can't really have a long run. So Uganda can participate to the Security Council,
but you have no power.
But you can only speak. You have no power. You have no veto, right? So Americans say no, we're gonna change that system, and now we're gonna give 2 permanent slots for Africans, right? So 2 African states will be able to sit permanently to be part of every discussion.
Yes.
So we're all happy. We said no, there's a reform.
Okay, so
but there's no veto. There's no veto. So you can speak. You can speak. You invited to the table. You sit. We listen. We check your hands. Sharp. As in South Africa, sharp. And they said so. But what about we stop this? We stop the invasion of Congo by Turkish forces of Sierra Leone or Libya or Lebanon. We stop the invasion. Why can't we stop the invasion of Israel in Lebanon, for instance? Then they will say no. You don't have the veto. You have only the country with a veto power can change that. So if you add to that almost every UN mission since 1960 is in Africa. How many UN missions have we seen in Africa? We've seen them in Congo. We've seen them in Sierra Leone. We've seen them in Liberia. We've seen them in Gambia. We've seen them in Sudan. We've seen them in South Sudan. How many times have we seen UN forces in Africa? United Nations as an organization, as an African agenda that is even bigger than anything else. 80% or 70% of their money in intervention go to Africa, go to African military intervention. Even more than that, 40% of every single soldiers sent in all history of the UN, 40% of the soldiers were African. So what does it mean? African, they can go and be sent to war. African troops can go and be sent to Haiti, they can go and be sent to Congo, they can go and be sent to Lebanon when there is UN there. But never ever they can take decisions. So those soldiers, you are on the field fighting for the UN with the UN flag, and you get good money for it. We all know that we get good money when we fight for soldiers fight for UN. But you don't have a say on the mission you're doing. Your president didn't have a say. So what is it that you're doing? Basically, you are some sort of like mercenary forces that are just been sent, but you can't take over. You can't speak of the decision. So this reform is a way to make up some change and pretend we're changing, and even they're doing better. Americans are smart guys. Like we can't take that from them. Not all of them. A lot of them don't have access to education, but those that have had access to education, they're quite smart.
Some Americans don't have access to education.
Yeah, most of them don't. Have you seen the price of those universities? Most Americans don't go to school. Anyway, that's not my point. They've been smart. What is it that they've done? The person that announced the reform, it's a black woman. It's a black woman. So it doesn't look like she's an imperialist or what. It looks like she's giving seat to Africa. What will Africa say? But it's a trap. It's a trap because can you be invited to someone's house? You're invited to someone's house. You are yourself, and then suddenly people tell you like you can't talk. You have to sit and listen to what we say. Are you going to call that an invite?
Why did you invite me?
Are you call that an invite?
You invited me for a meeting.
It's a joke.
I reached there. They said no. Your job is sit and listen. Then my ideas are not important. Then why am I here?
Why are you here? And even more than that, the trap is really well good, because basically what are we doing even us now? We are going to debate between us. Some people will say, no, we need to take those 2 seats. It's a beginning, you start with 2 seats, then after that we negotiate the veto. Blah, blah. Others will say, no, we get the system done and we want percentage. Like we will argue between us. And when we argue between us,
it become another conflict.
Yeah, when we argue between us, it can become another conflict that they intervene. But not only that, they still in New York taking decisions when we are still here arguing. You see what I mean? So they come with those divisions. They rather than saying, okay, listen, Africa should tell us what is it we're doing in the Security Council, because it is true that a lot of troops are sent them, a lot of conflict resolutions that need to be done. I'm not saying every UN mission has been an imperialist mission. No, sometimes they protected the people, and it was good to have them, right? But most of the missions are in Africa. 40% of the soldiers they send on missions are Africans. what about America just said, listen, Africa should make a proposal, and we listen to that proposal. Because we've done a proposal. African Union have done proposal. They want the veto right. If Africa has a seat with no veto, what's the point? So they want one veto right per region. So they did propose something, and the Americans, rather than listening what has been proposed, they proposed something else to create some confusions.
So let's win this up. They have 2 permanent slots, but they have one, which is the third, which is rotational. Is that the point you're making?
So right.
The 2 are permanent. They have given them 3.
Yeah.
The other one, they will be rotating countries. Like today it's Uganda, tomorrow it can be Kenya.
So that's the current system. The current system is rotating, and they say rather than have 3 rotating countries, you can have 2 permanent, and you can choose. African Union can choose which country are the permanent ones, right? So some people are saying it's going to be Egypt, other people are saying it's going to be Nigeria, other people it's going to be South Africa, acting as Africa, right? And so, but what can South Africa or Nigeria or Egypt do, even if all Africans agree? But you don't have a veto. So for instance, like concrete situation for our audience. NATO attacked Libya. At the moment, Gaddafi was being challenged by his people that were being influenced by all range of things.
They were not even challenged. It is the Americans who were instigating the Libyans.
So
they fronted the Libyans, but behind the back, they were Americans with their interests.
So NATO, even more than Americans, because the French were there. Don't forget the French had a grand interest into killing Gaddafi, because Gaddafi was giving money to French politicians to get elected. So you know the way Gaddafi was very powerful. And anyway, Gaddafi, we have seen that, we've seen it in the Pan-African Conference when Museveni is like, we were in a plane going to land in Libya, and NATO told us we can't come to Libya, right? So the Libyan intervention was a UN interventions. So they can say, no, it's a UN, it's peacekeeping missions, what. If Africa was here sitting at the table with a veto, they would have said, no, thank you, veto. No Americans here.
This is our problem.
No Americans in that story. We don't see what you guys have to do with Libya. Plus the previous Libyan leaders, which we all know had problem with Americans. So let's separate the issue. We deal with the problem. Right? Rather than that, what happened is that NATO came, took over the control of the aerian space, and then the African president couldn't even land. Right? You remember that? So who do you think Gaddafi would have listened? Those bomb of Americans, or the president of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, the president of Mozambique was there. A lot of presidents, even Museveni. He would have listened to them. They would have made Richard deal. They would have reached a deal because what he has done to his people was astonishing. What he has done for Africa was astonishing, and we didn't have no power to block that intervention. We had no power to block the intervention, and that's the sad part about the tragedy about Gaddafi.
In fact, why the Americans were rushing very fast. You remember how Obama would come and give, like a daily brief about how far they have gone into Libya.
Yep.
For them, they made that quick capture of Gaddafi because of their interests. Had it been left to maybe if Africa had veto powers on the UN Security Council, they would have blocked that and told them, please, give us chance, we first try to intervene. Because this is our brother. This is our brother.
Yes.
They would intervene because they had no interests in seeing Libya the way it is today. But America was pretending to be intervening to solve a problem which they themselves created, and they benefit from it. So a destroyed Libya is to the benefit of America.
100%. And it has divided all the Sahel. That conflict we spoke about even today, about this attack in Bamako, the weapons that they use in those attacks are coming from the arsenal of Gaddafi of back in the days. If the Tuaregs move back from Libya to Mali to attack the Bamako power and the juntas, it is because Gaddafi wasn't there anymore. So rather than seeing what Gaddafi have managed to do for Africa and accepting that Gaddafi was doing better for Africa than the aid, US aid or European Union aid and all of that, Gaddafi was doing much better for the continent. And so rather than accepting that, they put and they bombed the whole place, and now we have conflict where Central Africa was fighting because of Libyan weapons. Mali was fighting because of Libyan weapons. Niger was fighting because of Libyan weapons. Do you think Americans and French and NATO's understood this? No. They were looking, there's 5 people in the street, so maybe we should, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying Libyans had no right to deal with Gaddafi. There were situations which there were the people and the leaders. Maybe they need to rearrange the relationship. Maybe things could have been done differently, blah, blah, blah. But never, ever, foreign forces come and take down one of the most successful African leaders. What does it say for the youth? What does it say for the future leadership? If you deliver to your people the way Gaddafi delivered to his people, you're going to die the way Gaddafi died. And that was the message they sent to an entire generation of leaders. And that entire generation of leaders know now that if we don't have veto power at the UN, if we don't have a seat at NATO, if we don't have a seat in all those making of new weapons, those weapons will be used against us when we are using it for our people. As soon as we use it for foreign capital, as soon as we use the state, as soon as Ruto used the Kenyan state for Chinese to get richer and American to get richer, he can stay in power. He can stay in power long, and he can pay journalists in Europe to write nice articles about him, because they will do that. But at the moment, he delivers for his people. He gives free education, food, like Museveni provide food for his people here. Then he's attacked and be called a dictator. He's attacked and be called a dictator because he serves people rather than service the interest of foreign capital. So we need to have seats in those institutions and not just sit to represent the 1.2 billion people, because it's 1.2 billion people. France has a veto right with 60 million people. The UK has a veto right, they have 55 million people. Africa has 1.2 billion people, have no veto right. And they call it representative institutions. It doesn't work like this. It doesn't work like this.
And Russia is just one country with the veto powers. The entire African continent, 54 countries, 54 presidents.
No veto power. But yet, all intervention are in Africa.
Yes.
All of them. Yes. Like the most expensive one, which was the MONUSCO in Congo, which fell dramatically. Ask yourself what those missions fell. If you just bring the African army, but you don't listen to what the leadership have to tell you, it's gonna fail. It's gonna fail. You cannot tell me that if you want to sort out the conflict in east of Congo right now, you cannot tell me that an American diplomat or a Chinese diplomat will understand more than Museveni and Kagame and Gaddafi what's happening. They know those things. No, but even just right now, you try to make a solution in east of Congo without Tshisekedi, Kagame, and Museveni. You have no solution. You have no solution. There's no such thing as a solution.
First have to see
those guys have to agree.
What is NATO saying?
What is NATO saying? We know NATO have like Kenya, you know, like they put Kenya like the...
Take your team, my brother.
They cut Kenya like the...
Finish your team, so you already finished it.
But I cannot come here and
unless they give you more.
I cannot come here and steal people's tea. That's against an African agenda. But yeah, no, we want the veto power. Those type of propositions where we come, we are invited to the table where we can't speak. We have no power there. It's like coming and tight yourself. You know, you tight yourself and then you go whatever you do. Because now let's say we accept to have 2 seats at the UN Council. Now people will say, the world agrees. And people will be like, but us in Africa, like, whatever we agree or not, we can't veto whatever you guys agree on. So what else do we have? What other choice can we make than agreeing with you and trying to take what is there? So we want a United Nations that is reformed. It is quite clear that those institutions are too old now. They don't represent the world as it is. There were 350 million Africans at the moment the UN was created. Is over 1.2 billion. At least for now, in the next 10 years, it's going to be more. And then really soon, we're going to be more numerous than China, India, and other countries. However, to reform the United Nations, you also need to listen to a lot of different powers, such as Brazil, such as India, such as China, such as Russia. And so those powers need to agree on something. No, America, they are sitting here. They're already there. Forget, they're already there. You the headmasters.
The headmasters, they need to listen to those.
The headquarters is in New York. The headquarters is not in Moscow. But did New York solve out the Second World War? USSR? No, it was USSR soldiers in Moscow, but the secretary, general secretary, and all that is in New York. So it's a NATO organization. It's not just a NATO organization; it's more complex. But definitely, if you want to have power in this institution, you need to sit. I just want to remind you about one small thing before we finish that video. And how did China become part of all those organizations? And which organization did China target in order to develop that far? Right? And China has taken over the IMF and the World Bank and the OMC, the trade organizations, right? So now OMC and IMF, they have Chinese directors and Chinese are present there. Why? Because they understood that they cannot develop globally if they're not part of those organizations that already organize and shape the way it is. So those international institutions, also the agenda of China to penetrate and investigate and rule and govern those institutions allowed them to become the superpower they are today. If they didn't come to the American organization and say, listen, you can keep the organization the way it is, even if you guys designed it for your own interest, we see that, but you put a Chinese director. And then the Americans said, no, but if we put a Chinese director, then China needs to put more money in the bank, because it's about how much money you put in the bank. Us American, we put more money in the bank, so we choose the director. And China said, okay. They put more money. They choose the director. And now the director is Chinese, and you can see that the whole organization do not only align to American capital interest, right? So there's a possibility to do that as Africa. We can sit together and say, no, those guys need us. So rather than saying we're negotiating with America, what we say is that no more UN peacekeeping missions in Africa until we have reformed the Security Council. Until we have a say about the institution that sent foreign troops to Africa, we will refuse any foreign troop in Africa. Simple. Even if it's Kenyan army or Rwandan army or Ugandan army, we don't care. Because what matters is not the army that come. It's not because it's an army on African in Africa that is better. It's who have taken the decision to send that army at the first point. Was it French? Was it Americans? Was it Chinese?
What are the interests? Because who sent it will inform the interest.
Yeah.
That's the point.
And so yeah, we can look at what the interesting time we live as Pan-African is that we have seen a really tiny oppressed country that is China booming, blossoming, and becoming so big and so successful that we can also look at how did they manage that, right? And we can see that they didn't fight and destroy the institutions. They penetrated them, they reached them, they came inside the doors and inside the meetings, and they're negotiating from the meeting room. They didn't break the house. So maybe that's the same for UN. Maybe we should keep the UN. We should not break the whole UN. Some people will say, no, we should break this organization and do BRICS, for instance, or be part of other organizations. Maybe we should not break the organization, but we should be so much powerful inside it that now when they send foreign troops in Africa, we can choose the nationality. We can even say, we want Argentinians and we want Americans to come and fight for our people here in the shocks. We can have this type of conversation, this type of agenda, but at least we can develop a Pan-African agenda for the continent and not have to constantly negotiate with institutions that do not give us the power, but that get powerful because of us. Because when they go to New York, what do you think they say? They say, hey, look, our mission in Congo is successful. Our mission in Sierra Leone, we won. The mission in Chad, we won. No. So we're still good. South Sudan, we do it. New country, you see success, blah, 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 blah. No, you don't do any of this. This is the continent organizing for himself. So we need to reach that point where we're not naive about those tactics of divisions.
And at that point, I want to thank you so much, Comrade Suffering. This is the reason why Comrade Suffering is a 2023 recipient of the most prestigious Pan-African Pyramid Dobo Award.
Thank you so much.
Now you understand why I went straight to France and picked
this one.
Give him a Pan-African award.
And check, go and subscribe to this video channel so you can check like the barbecue general, the general of IT that is right now fighting imperialism of the Americans, but he's shooting at Kenyans.
Comrades, follow us on our social media platforms, the Pan-African Pyramid YouTube channel, the Spy Television Detective YouTube website, and the Spy Television website. Don't forget, we're also on TikTok.
Yes.
Look for Pan-African Pyramid TikTok, and Rumba Live TikTok, the Spy Uganda TikTok.
Go and check that.
Follow.
You Twitter, we are there. X, it is called X.
X now.
Yeah, this is. But I've seen Elon Musk.
Yeah.
This is
The richest African, eh?
Elon Musk
Don't
last
forget
week
that.
announced, even if God produced, even if God created you blind,
Yeah.
like you've never seen in this world,
Yeah.
Elon Musk has got a solution for you. He's creating a technology that you'll put on, like you're putting on
Lenses. Yeah. And then you see like your eyes.
and you can be able to see 10 times better than the usual eyes of your.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
That's an African.
It's an African.
You know, Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Now he's challenging God
Born and raised in Pretoria.
because God will have created you blind for a reason. Elon Musk is challenging you God and say, no, this man needs to see. And in fact, the eyes he's giving you are 10 times sharper.
Hey.
You can see what is happening 5 kilometers from where you are. 5 kilometers. With your eyes now, you can't see what is happening at a kilometer here. You cannot.
It will be.
Elon Musk will give you glasses that will enable you to see 5 kilometers
That's what,
where you are.
that's what he says he's gonna do, right? So, it's
Oh,
another.
that guy.
No. He has already said that he's going to send us humanoid robots by 2022. We haven't seen them. He has told us already like his car will be able to do ABC by 2025. He hasn't delivered. So what Elon Musk is, and the capitalism function a certain way, right? So Elon Musk can say things, but what does he say things? He say things to hype investors. So Elon Musk doesn't own Tesla. He doesn't own all those companies. Those are shareholders, right? So he's the CEO and he is a shareholder himself, but there's other shareholders, right? And for other shareholders to continue to pay, but without having money, because most of the business of Elon Musk, they don't bring back money yet. SpaceX, Tesla don't make money yet. It will make money, but so far it's still like investors that have to put money for development of new technology that will make money in 5 or 10 years. So he has to tell those investors, hey, listen, I'm gonna do crazy things. You're blind, I'm gonna give you glasses. You like legs, I'm gonna give you like a para-Olympic legs that can make you shoot like Didier Drogba. He's gonna tell you those type of things. So investors
Don't forget,
keep investing in his businesses, and he keep the money for.
Don't
They
forget
keep the
you
money.
said the reason that he was manufacturing women for men.
No, you just look at the name of his son and daughters. You will understand. You will understand the guy has some bigger issues with God. He says he have issue with God. I mean, clearly, like the guy is trying to become God. I don't know what he's trying to do, but I know he's gonna fail.
The Pan-African Pyramid Weekly show here. My name is Andrew Rumba Katsebe, your speaker. Comrade Safri will be here every Monday from 11 to midday. Watch this show on NBS television every Saturday from 4 to 5 p.m. I say now, comrade,
Aluta continue.
don't agonize.
Organize.
Free your mind.